स्वामिन्नमस्ते नतलोकबन्धो कारुण्यसिन्धो पतितं भवाब्धौ मामुद्धरात्मीयकटाक्षदृष्ट्या ऋज्व्यातिकारुण्य सुधाभिवृष्ट्या स्वामिन्नमस्ते 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 ज्ञानस्वरूपं निजभावयुक्तम् आनन्दमानन्दकरं प्रसन्नं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं भवरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि नित्याय सत्याय चिदात्मकाय नव्याय भव्याय परात्पराय शुद्धाय बुद्धाय निरञ्जनाय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय। जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु. So in the last session, we were discussing about Pujya Swamiji and his Gurudev Baba's interactions, what he learned from him, and how he assimilated and imbibed those qualities. Particularly, we were going through that portion where Baba, from his own experiences, is telling Swamiji in certain situations how one should behave. In the midst of many other people, mixing with various kinds of people, what should be the attitude and way of interaction with everybody. And while saying so, Baba tells Swamiji very deep truths about interactions, the attitudes towards everybody. The one thing that he says that one should try to have oneness with everybody. Oneness with everybody, and feel that one understands them. Do not feel anybody is different, anybody is low or not as efficient. Feel sympathetic to them. And Baba was telling Swamiji about his experiences. Swamiji observed some of the behaviors of Baba with the villagers, and ultimately Swamiji, in his own mind, whatever he heard and whatever he observed in Baba, he comes to his own conclusions. And Baba also told Swamiji that unquestioned fondness makes the heart and mind unhindered receptacles of Guru's grace. So Baba told this sentence particularly, which remained imprinted in Swamiji's mind. And when we hear it, it should be imprinted in our minds also. What is that? Very important, unquestioned fondness. The fondness, we may have a lot of fondness for our Guru, but are we all ready to take his corrections, his improvements that he gives us, or his comments? We should be ready at all times to be transformed in his hands. Whatever he tells us, it has a deeper meaning, and it has a compulsion for us. It should become a compulsion for us to improve ourselves on those lines. And unquestioned fondness. The fondness should not be of the kind that I will take only that much which suits me, or that much alone which is convenient for me. It should be an unquestioned fondness where you may have to sacrifice a lot, you may have to forego your preferences a lot, and be in rhythm or harmony with the Guru's attitude. Only when we can do that, Baba told that the heart and mind will be an unhindered receptacle of Guru's grace. Actually, Guru's grace flows for everybody equally. We are not able to receive it equally because from person to person we vary in our reservedness and openness. If one is open, one has opened the heart fully, saying that I have no preference, always trying to remove the preference and take in whatever flows in, then one becomes a full receptacle of the Guru's grace. But suppose a person is not so much open. He is doing things in a convenient manner, and he is only thinking about how he can take the instructions and the guidance for his benefit, but having the preferences that he has. That is, he is not ready to leave his preferences, leave his desires. And he has very rigid ideas about his viewpoints. So naturally, though the Guru's grace is flowing, and this person is not able to receive everything because the door is half closed, or maybe only a little bit open. So that is why it is said that unquestioned fondness makes the heart and mind the unhindered receptacle of Guru's grace. This unhindered word is very important, and unquestioned fondness is very important. We have to constantly, when we come to listen to these or hear these or read these words, we must stop and think. Think what? Where am I? Where do I stand? Do I still hold on to my preferences? That what I like to hear, I would like my Guru to tell me that. Or I like my Guru to tell me that what he feels is good for me. Maybe I will not like it immediately, but that is what he should tell me, so that I become perfect. These words uttered by Baba in the background of the discussions and the mood of the time meant immensely great for me. This is what I was discussing, that Baba told this to Swamiji. And Swamiji says that whatever Baba uttered, he felt that it's immensely important for him. And it's not really important only for him. It's important for every disciple in front of his Guru. So immensely important, immensely great. And Swamiji has given an importance to these words. Many of the times what happens is that our Guru, he tells something, we miss the importance. We hear it and we forget it. Then and there, that is why it is said that whenever we are hearing something, immediately manana also should take place. What is my place? Am I slipping? Have I attained? Am I like this? What my Guru wants me to be, or whatever quality my Guru is emphasizing on, am I like this? So unless we give importance then and there, it will go away from the mind. So when we are hearing something, importance should be given. See, we had gone for the darshan many years back in Kailash Ashram. Swami Harihar Tirtha Maharaj Ji. He was a very noble saint, very much known in those days in Rishikesh and Uttarkashi and all that. He used to talk very little, childlike, used to sit for darshan. Whoever comes, they will do pranam, sit there. If anybody asked him some question, he would give reply in one sentence or sometimes few words even. So his disciples from various places used to come, and he was not giving any lecture. He'll simply sit and give darshan. People would sit, somebody will say, Maharaj, can I sing some bhajan? So bhajan will go on for some time. Or if somebody asked a question, he hasn't replied. Another will ask a question, he will reply in 2 sentences or 1 sentence. So when we had gone for a few days, every day we would go for his darshan. We'll also sit in the midst of the crowd that used to be there in that small hall. One group of ladies had come from somewhere, and it was a family. Many people were there, children were also there. And that day they were leaving, one of the days they were leaving. So when they went one by one, they went to Maharaj to do pranam. They must have told that, Maharaj, we are leaving today, after a few days stay there. So Maharaj was giving prasad to them. So one by one they were taking prasad. When one lady came and did pranam, later we know that she is actually a disciple of this Swamiji. Maharaj did not pick up the prasad and give her. She was again and again saying, Maharaj, aapne mujhe prasad nahi diya. You have not given me prasad. Maharaj, prasad de dijiye. But Maharaj was simply smiling and looking at her and not extending his hand to give the prasad. So when she said once or twice that, you have not given me prasad, Maharaj said, प्रसाद तो मैं देता रहता हूँ, कोई लेता नहीं है. He said that prasad I am giving every day, but there are very few people who take it. See how deep is the meaning. Actually, when people go to have darshan of their guru or a mahatma, mostly we are satisfied by doing pranam, taking the blessings and getting some prasad, which we will carry home. What this Maharaj said, that I am giving prasada always, but there is very few people who take it. That is, whatever I am saying, that is the prasada. Give it importance, assimilate it, take it. And that is the prasada by which you can be transformed. But he says that very few people take it. Koi leta nahi hai. Nobody takes the prasad. But people are eager to take the material prasada, the sweet, whatever prasad is there, they are very eager to take that and take it home for their family. That is also good. But they are missing what? Missing the prasada which the Guru has been saying in the form of words, the form of messages. So here also, Baba had said this, Unquestioned fondness makes the heart and mind the unhindered receptacles of Guru's grace. So when, say, Baba or say our Guru tells, if this sentence is said, are we just to listen to it? And then after the session do pranam and take a sweet prasada and go home? Or are we to take this sentence as the prasada? What does he mean by unquestioned fondness? Do I have unquestioned fondness? What exactly is meant by this? If one doesn't know, one must ask. Otherwise, if one feels that I know, assess yourself and see whether your mind is fully given to the Guru. And heart and mind, unhindered receptacle. So, if only I have unquestioned devotion or unquestioned fondness, that is, what is this unquestioned fondness or devotion? That is, you don't want anything from the Guru. No motive is there, no reason is there. You are fond of him. You are devoted to him because you cannot but be so. Mostly our fondness is that we are fond. And we are very happy if Guru also shows us fondness, expresses it. We are very happy. Suppose Guru doesn't show the fondness and says something in annoyance or disapproval or a displeasure, we are not happy. Either we feel that, Guru has not understood me, and try to tell him how he should understand me, what all I am. This is what is the normal human nature. We will not quietly receive what he gives us. For what? He gives us unconditionally. He wants only our welfare and growth. Nothing he needs from us. He doesn't need money. He doesn't need even devotion and pranam. He doesn't need the pranam. Pranam we do only to feel blessed inside. He doesn't need pranam. He doesn't need any respect. He wants nothing from us. If at all he needs something, it is our sincerity to the sadhana that he has given. That sincerity. How will the sincerity come? The sincerity will come when we slowly, our mind which is in worldliness and many of the things which is in the world, our interest is more in that, thoughts are more in that than my sadhana, than my pursuit. The Guru becomes happy when he sees that all those attractions for the worldliness is slowly receding and the Shishya is becoming more and more one-pointed and wholesome. He becomes happy. Because this is the growth that he wants in the disciple. He wants the purity in the disciple. What is purity? Don't forget it. Purity is lack of desire, lack of possessiveness, lack of ego, lack of worldliness. When the Guru sees that the Shishya is becoming more and more loving, more and more embracing to all, he is leaving his likes and dislikes and preferences and is able to have samatva in the mind. All these things, when the Guru watches and finds the Shishya to be gaining, he is the most happy. He doesn't want anything else. So this Harihar Tirtha Maharaj, he was saying, I am giving prasada, but nobody takes it. Even though he was telling that lady that prasad to main dete rehta hu, koi leta nahi. I am giving prasada, but nobody takes it. This lady did not understand what he was saying. She was still stretching out her hand and feeling very miserable that prasada in the form of material sweets were not given to her. Ultimately, Maharaj gave her the prasada and smiled. So this is our condition. We don't understand what is the real prasada. Just like we do not understand what is the real worship. What is real worship? The real worship is when we completely leave our preferences. We don't want anything from you, O God. I just want to be merged into you in your thoughts and see you everywhere. Not only in the temple, not only in the idols, not only in the images, but in everything where you are. The expressions, the forms, the thoughts, the emotions, everywhere you are. I want to see you everywhere. This should be our attitude. That is the worship. So, Swamiji wrote that these words uttered by Baba in the background of the discussions and the mood of the time meant immensely great for me. I remember in another discussion, Baba told me, you who are dear to me will have something great and special. So Baba told Swamiji, you who are very dear to me, you will become something great and special. And that is what has happened. All these Swamiji is narrating from the time when he had taken Diksha, and he was sometimes going to stay at the feet of his Guru Baba and having interactions with him. That is the time Baba had told. And what does it mean by you who are dear to me? Who is dear to me? You know, in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, all the lakshanas of who is a bhakta, who is dear to Bhagavan. Which devotee is dear to God? God has given so many qualities which the devotee should have. If the devotee has these qualities, then God says, he is my devotee. He is my dearest devotee. He is my dearest devotee. Like this, in 12th chapter, it is there. It starts with Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam Maitraha Karuna Evacha Nirmamo Nirahankaraha Samadukha Sukha Kshami Santushtas Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridhanischyaha Mai Arpita Mano Buddhihi Yo Madbhaktaha Same Priyaha. So Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. One should not have any ill feeling towards anybody, any creature. So to be such a devotee who is dear to God, one must have this quality first, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. So we must strive to become so. At least, if not 100%, we should try to become 100%. At what percentage we are, every day we must see. Have we become like this? To what percentage we have become? When did I have a little ill feeling for somebody? Why did I have it? How to get over that? A devotee should be constantly thinking like this. A devotee cannot be thinking God, 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 God. No. He should see the qualities which God likes. In those qualities, God is. So, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam Maitraha, that is friendliness with everybody. Karuna Evacha, mercy and compassion for everybody. Nirmamaha, not having any possessiveness, this mindness, this is mine, this belongs to me, that belongs to me. The feeling of that, all people in the world, they suffer from this only, and because of this mamata, that this belongs to me, that belongs to me, and then getting affected when something happens to the belongings. This family is mine, the children are mine, the property is mine, the house is mine, the car is mine, this post is mine, this is my job. When something happens, we are affected. This body is mine, So, nirahankaraha, do not have any ego. Because of ego, we hurt so much. We hurt people by our talks, by our behavior. Sama dukkha sukha. And samaha, that is, we are equal in sukha and dukkha. Understanding that in sukha also, sukha is also the expression of the self or God. Dukkha is also self or God, because there is nothing else, because apart the self, self alone is there, God alone is there. So there is no differentiation. So sukha is just, that sukha is an expression of God or the self. Similarly, dukkha is also so. Having that kind of a knowledge and steadfastness in that knowledge, getting established in the knowledge. Kshami, you are forgiving. So I read so many of the qualities. What should a bhakta or a devotee do? They should be constantly seeing whether I am qualifying in these qualities. How much I am falling, why I am slipping, what are the reasons for my slipping. This should be the sadhana. Santushta satatam yogi yatatma dridha nischayaha. That is, always remain contented. That is, you are contented. You are satisfied always. Whatever you have wished, it has not come. So you become mad. You are angry, you are crying. No. Receive what is given, thinking that is God design, and let anything go. That also you are sama dukkha sukha. When we receive something which we wanted, we get sukha. And when something we do not want has come to us, we have dukkha. And just now, what did we see? God loves those who are sama dukkha sukha. So santushta satatam, we can be always santushta when we have sama dukkha sukha. Yogi, you become yukta with God. Yatatma, you are always striving to know the self. Dridha nischayaha, have firm resolve that I'll be working on these, my spiritual qualities, my sadhana. That dridha nischayaha, it should not leave you. That you find that, oh, this is only a little time in my day I am spending some time or thinking. Rest of the time I am all involved and merged into worldly thinking. Mai arpita mano buddhi, mind and buddhi is completely surrendered and offered to God. By how we understand, we know that the creation is God's. I am also His creator. So everything, my body, my senses, my prana, my mind, my buddhi, everything has been created by God, and it is also activated by the presence inside. So think and introspect and reflect in every situation using the buddhi, and make the mind and buddhi go towards sattvika levels. Come away from the worldly affairs, worldly thoughts and worldly crisscross thinking, which takes our mind away from our source inside. Know that you are the creation, I am God's, that feeling, and know that He is the source. So remain firm in that knowledge and then act. Understand that every work that we are doing, it is because of the wish of that supreme power. So, Mai arpita mano buddhi. Like this, you can read in the 12th chapter. See, next one is Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chayaha. Harsham harsha bhayod vegaihi mukto, yaha sachame priyaha. So, sachame priyaha. Who is telling whom? Krishna is telling Arjuna that Arjuna, when devotees have these qualities, he is very, very dear to me. Very, very dear to me. He says, Yasman no dvijate lokaha. When the world does not get disturbed or agitated by him. That is, the devotee should not do anything by his thought, speech, action, not disturb anything in this world. Similarly, he doesn't get disturbed by anything that is happening in the world. Harsha, Amarsha, Bhaya, Udvega, Muktaha. That is, Harsha is happiness, Amarsha is, I think, Bhaya and Udvega is fear and anxiety. So Harsha, Amarsha is, I think, jealousy, if I am right. I may not be. Harsha, Amarsha, Bhayodvegai Mukto. So one should be absolutely rid of these. Fear, happiness, jealousy, irritation, anxiety, all these. So what should a bhakta do? What should a devotee do? A devotee, along with listening to the Guru, doing the sadhana, what did Baba say? That unquestioned fondness. Then you become the unhindered receptacle of Guru's grace. So Guru must find you that you have these qualities. So apart from listening to what Guru is saying, his lectures or his words, you must also work upon these qualities so that you become purer and purer and Guru understands it. So there are many other things. You can read it in the 12th chapter. It starts from 12th shloka of 12th chapter. So he says that you who are dear to me will have something great and special. So every devotee will become dear to the Guru, dear to God, when one has the qualities that one should attain. One should attain. And that is the sadhana that one must have. In Bhagavatam it says, who is a Bhagavata Pradhana, who is the best of a devotee. The best of a devotee should have so many qualities like this we have just now read. In Bhagavatam also, in Bhagavatam the first quality given is that those who see God everywhere, in everything, and always dwells in God, he is the best devotee. And so when Baba is telling Swamiji, saying that what? You are dear to me. That means what? Baba must be seeing such qualities in Swamiji. He must be seeing Swamiji striving to have those qualities. He must be seeing that whatever instructions or advice Baba is giving, so that his Shishya, Swamiji, gains these qualities, and Swamiji sincerely striving to attain these qualities, then he becomes dear. So when we are reading this, what should we think? Just like Baba found in his Shishya, Swamiji, a sincerity to take Baba's words, advices, sincerity to reflect in them, a sincere striving to assimilate and attain those qualities, seeing that Swamiji's Gurudev told Swamiji, you who are dear to me. Our assessment should be, is my Guru finding such a trait in me that I am striving wholesomely, sincerely? Is there anything in me which needs to be corrected, needs to be improved upon? How many disciples are asking that? Very few. Generally, people are satisfied by coming to the Guru, hearing a few words, showing reverence by doing pranam, offering him some items, and remaining at a distance. But those who are sincere seekers, my dear children, must ask him, what else should I do? What else should I do? Should tell him that even with so much of sadhana or so many years after my diksha, I find that these traits are not leaving me. Some traits are still there, which I want to get rid of. Or tell the Guru, the certain traits which I wanted to get rid of, I think more or less I've got rid of. But there are certain traits which, even after so many years of sadhana, I have not been able to get rid of. Please advise me what next is to be done. This openness, this kind of, association one should have. The life of sannyasa and the austere notes it implied became the subject of discussion one day at Dakshin Khanda. I think Swamiji was getting ready to take to renunciation. All that we have gone through and discussed must have been before Swamiji took to renunciation. Slowly, by doing sadhana and in Baba's company, whatever little time Swamiji could spend, Swamiji's mind, which was having this note of vairagya right from the beginning. You may remember some of you, that when he was even a young boy, Swamiji has written in My Beloved Baba, in Sadguru Sannidhya also, that one day sitting on a mango tree with his friend, one Narayana Swami, Swamiji said, Narayana Swami, I am always disinterested. I don't like anything at all. Nothing interests me. Even if I go playing with my friends, I don't find any interest. This not finding interest in anything has become a problem for me. And then Narayana Swami, who also was a little elder to Swamiji, but a young person only, told Swamiji that, this is called vairagya. And those who have vairagya, they attain moksha. And Swamiji has written that is the first time he got acquainted with these two words, vairagya and moksha. And ever since, many of his traits, he would feel that, oh, is it that I have vairagya? Is it that because of this I am now walking towards moksha? So this trait he had, and as he had his Sadguru Baba, he was led to the Sadguru, and he took to sadhana very, very wholesomely. He has written in the books how long he was doing his sadhana, even when he was working in an office. So naturally that thought of renunciation, leaving this worldly life and become everybody's, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, this whole earth is my abode. And you belong to not particular family, particular parents, you belong to everybody. This is what sannyasa is. So his mind was going towards that, seeing God everywhere. When you see everywhere, no particular family remains, no particular person remains as your own. Everybody becomes your own, and you belong to everybody. So he must be discussing such mindset with Baba. So one day there was a discussion. Baba quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam in which the bhiksha vritti of a sannyasin, the manner in which he will receive food, was described. Baba then added, you have to cook your own food. The food received from others may not suit you. A sannyasin's life implies travel and stay in different places with different people. You will have to preserve your purity and ascetic refinement. Purity of food is very important in this regard. So, what exactly was the topic of discussion? Swamiji has not mentioned, but there was a topic of discussion regarding renunciation. So, in that context, Baba said, purity of food is very important in this regard, especially for sannyasins. You have to cook your own food. The food received from others may not suit you. A sannyasin's life implies travel and stay in different places with different people. You will have to preserve your purity and ascetic refinement. Purity of food is very important in this regard. So, this purity of food, food actually, our growth, our bodily growth, mental growth, our intelligential growth, spiritual growth, everything depends on the food that we eat. That is why it is said that we must take sattvic, pure food. Don't take food which is kept even overnight. Don't take it the next day. Don't take food which is impure, which is rajasic, which is tamasic. Don't take those food. So, lot of purity for food is emphasized, and that is why generally many sannyasins, they cook their own food. If they don't get anything, they will simply remain on some fruits or milk and stay like that. So, here Baba has told purity of food is very important in this regard. This purity of food, actually how do we purify the food? Even when we cook, when we cook food, various kinds of impurities come into the food. Maybe the place where we are cooking the food, that may not be very clean. Then the materials with which we cook, the vegetables and other things may not be very clean. Sometimes we may oversee and we may not be very attentive enough to see dust particles, hair, or insects. Sometimes the vessels may not be clean. And over everything, even if all these are clean, what has to be clean is the cook's mind, how we are cooking food. When we cook food, even if oneself cooks food for one's own consumption, one's mind may not be pure enough. One may be grumbling, one may be criticizing, one may be finding fault, one may be in great misery, or one may be thinking about many things and mind may be very restless. So where is the purity? Mind is not restful, mind is not peaceful, mind is fearful, mind is anxious. All these impurities enter the food which is getting cooked. And that food, when we take, it does not help us at all. That is why it is said that when a girl is pregnant, she should have good sattvic food, sattvic thoughts. Whatever she hears should be good and sattvic, mind elevating. Similarly, for our everyday food, we should be cooking with lot of attention. And how that can be done? Every day we should cook food thinking we are offering it to God. Not for our consumption, not for the family people to eat, not everybody you give to your family and you are expecting also that whatever you have cooked is appreciated by people. Not that. We should cook food, whatever it is. It may be few dishes, it may be just one dish. We should think of God, who has given all the materials with which we are cooking, the vessels which we are using, our own hands which we are lifting and we are stirring, the energy in them, the strength in them, our mind, which is thinking about the process of cooking. Everything is given by God. Nothing is mine. You have given, and I'll cook something. Give me that devotion to make something very delicious to be offered to you. After that, all of us will take prasad. So whatever you have given me, if I make, I am making for you, O Lord, with the items that you have given me, for you to take, and then thinking that we have offered to you, we will take the prasada. Never thinking that I am cooking, I am feeding my family, my children, my husband or wife or my parents. Never thinking like that. We never think. Nobody tells us. In our childhood, nobody has taught us that we can think like this. My dear children, only for during some pujas we know that things as a nivedya has to be given to God. But that every day we can do it, for every action we can do it. Thinking that everything, the clothes that we wear, where from they have come. It may be made of cotton, it may be made of silk, it may be made of any other thing. What is the source and essence? It all goes back to Panchabhuta, which is not made by us. It has come from some power whom we call God, whom we call Sai Brahman. So, what is ours? Nothing is ours. So this is how we should. Here in the ashram, every day, ashram, if not very big, our ashram is quite big. So many people take food every day. So we are not able to make our own food. Somebody appointed as a cook cooks food for us. But whosoever it is, even if I had cooked myself, unless my mind is pure, the food will be impure. So whosoever cooks. So we bring all the items in a small vessel, in small katoris, that is vessels, small katoris are placed in a big vessel. Each item is put into these small vessels and it is brought to Swamiji every day. Swamiji looks at that food and he, with his glance, he purifies the food. Whatever impurities had gone into it, with his divine glance he purifies. Then he closes his eyes and has a sankalpa that whoever takes this purified food will be growing bodily, mentally, intelligentially, as well as spiritually. Then he gives us back that bigger vessel containing all items. Those items are then taken to the kitchen and the small quantities which have been purified are poured back into the respective bigger vessels, stirred very well, and then only the serving to everybody takes place. It is called Bhojana Pavitri Karanam. Swamiji has named it. Bhojana means food which we are going to eat, and Pavitri Karanam means purifying, to make it pure. So this we always do wherever Swamiji is. Many of our devotees, seeing this being done here, in their houses also they do it in front of Swamiji's photo, offering him whatever has been cooked. But one thing which is very necessary is one's own attitude. How to make oneself feel that I am doing this item of work for God. I am remembering, I think I have told this story many times, but still I want to tell this. In Kharagpur, when we were in Kharagpur, there was one sannyasin. Everybody used to call him Maharaj. And he used to take Upanishad classes. So we also started going. He was quite fond of us. He was, at that time, he used to stay in Uttarkashi, but he had come down and was staying with one of his disciples there. Then his bhiksha was being cooked there in that disciple's house, the then computer science head. So then some days Maharaj would be saying that I'm not happy to take bhiksha from only one family. Sannyasis are not supposed to trouble the householders. That is why sannyasis go around and take food from different places. So he used to tell, and by his saying, I used to feel that whether he is giving a hint that we should also offer him food at times. So one day we asked that, Maharaj, I don't know, you have been mentioning this. Don't know whether we have the eligibility or the capability to prepare food for you. You have never cooked for a sannyasin. But if you would give us permission, then we will bring food for you and tell us when to bring. So he said, okay, in a week you can bring on such and such day. Say it was Tuesday. So the first Tuesday, Monday, we got one bag, orange color bag. I think by God's grace alone, all these sadachara came. We went to the market to buy vegetables, and we were never keeping the bag in which we filled the vegetables with on the floor. It was always hanging in the hand. Ever since, later also, we would never buy vegetables for our use and Maharaj's use together. Always it will be separate. So, brought some new vessels, a new karhai, that is frying pan, and felt that we should cook for him not in our vessels. Then the day of taking the bhiksha, his very food was very simple. After bath and all that, chanting my Guru Mantra, started cutting vegetables and cooking with all focus, all wholesomeness, all devotion. First time cooking for a Swami, and then took the food to him with lot of palpitation, because we had heard that this Maharaj, he understands when the food is not cooked with pure mind. And if he senses that the mind was not pure, not restful, he simply doesn't touch the food. So with a lot of, anxiety and apprehension, took the food to him and served him food. He took food and said, very pure food, I'm very happy. So very, very relieved I was. I felt very happy. Then next Tuesday again, I did the same thing, and he took the food and said, it was very nice, very pure. And additionally, I had no experience of serving a sannyasin. So that was a very blessed moment, serving food to him. Then third week also came. But every time I was on that particular day, I will be very tense. Because however much I would try to make my mind one-pointed in devotion and one-pointed in thinking about purity of mind and cook for him with lot of fondness, a little bit of this other thoughts coming, I will be very tense, thinking that, oh, my mind should not go here and there, and would be feeling fearful whether he will feel that my mind was not one-pointed. So I started thinking that such a noble opportunity I have got to serve a sannyasi, cooking and giving bhiksha to him. And he is also blessing me, saying that the food is pure. But every time I'm going through this kind of tense moments, that is not good. Why is it happening? Then it revealed, I got a revelation that only on a particular day of the week I am trying to cook with a very wholesome, one-pointed, devotional mind, thinking that I am cooking for a divine person. And I'm not doing it other days. Other days I'm allowing my mind to go here and there, not thinking that I'm cooking for something divine. So that revelation was, suppose I cook every day, thinking that every day I'm cooking for God. I'll be offering the food to Him. Then I will take the prasada. Then it will become such a habit with me that on particular days when I want to become divine, it won't become an effort, it will become natural. It was such a revelation. And that is what happened. Cooking became so joyful, so devotional. Any work in the kitchen, and then I understood that it cannot be only for cooking. Any work has to be done with that kind of an attitude, whether we are washing clothes, washing vessels, going to the office, doing very important work, anything and everything, we have to understand that it is for God's sake that I am doing work. Mat karmakrit mat paramaha. In Bhagavad Gita it is there. You become mat karmakrit. Any time when we are working, we don't forget that only because He has given me the limbs, has given me the buddhi, my mind, my health condition should be all right to do any work. Everything is given by Him. I cannot be controlling my health, my situations. Nothing can be controlled by me. To live in that knowledge and to do work becomes mat karmakrit. We know that I am doing His work. He is making me do, and that is why I am doing. Otherwise, I have no control over anything. So, this purity of food is very important in this regard. So on this purity of food, now I went to every action. Baba was speaking in a lofty note. To leave home and usual matrimonial relationships will be to throw yourself open to a much larger circle of relationships. There too, fondness and feelings will be there. In the close association of the saint, one will have deep feelings and sharing with him. Do not think that attachment and identity are restricted to householders and parents alone. Saints are supposed to have Manasa Putras. You are all my Manasa Putras. So, Baba said in a very lofty note that he was telling Swamiji, who either he has already renounced or was thinking of renouncing, to leave home the blood relationships, matrimonial relationships, and go out in the world. It is going into a much more larger relationship. While we are in a household, we are in our family, and around us is our extended family. Then comes the societal circle. There will be professional circle. We will not know anybody beyond that. We may come to know, but this is the circle that we move about. But when we leave our blood and matrimonial relationship and we consider ourselves one with the whole world, it's a large family. Say, in the spiritual family that we have, family of our Pujya Swamiji, So many devotees, so many disciples, their families. We know so many people. And when one is in the household, one's thoughts will be one's own family, those people whom they know. In this spiritual family, what happens? Your mind thinks about everybody, whether they are close to you, whether they are regularly in association with you or not. Maybe some families are in regular association, but what about their families, their children? They may not be in association, but they also become one with the family of the spiritual saint. His mind will be full of the feeling of welfare about the whole world. That is why we sing, Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, Sarve santu niramayaha. Our prayers are not for our family. Mostly householders will go to temples and say what? Let my family be all right. Let my daughter be all right. My grandsons will be all right. Only the family. And what do the saints say? Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Let everybody be all right. Every creature be all right. Everybody have peace of mind. This is what they now represent. They become one with the whole universe. So Baba is telling Swamiji about that. It becomes a larger circle of relationships. And there also fondness and feelings will be there. So one will have deep feelings for those who are more close. If something happens to them, health-wise, monetarily, family-wise, if they are suffering, the saint will also suffer. He will also feel sad for them, but he will not be overwhelmed. He has that knowledge to make these people who are coming near him, asking him, or just sits near him, to take them beyond their suffering and sorrow and make them feel afloat in this world. That is, on one hand, the saint feels for everybody. He doesn't know everybody in the world. If anybody comes closer and he comes to know their particular sorrow, particular problem, then he knows how to make them remain afloat and not get drowned in this problem. So, in a way, Baba says, everybody becomes a Manasa Putra for the saint. That kind of attitude a saintly person should have. Manasa Putra. People have I have a son, I have a daughter, or I have 2 sons and 1 daughter, or 2 daughters and 3 sons. This is what is identity. Here the saint says that everybody is my Manasa Putra. Everybody. It's not that who is giving me service or he is giving me some offering, they are the Manasa Putras. No, everybody, whoever comes near, I come to know about them. I try to solve their problems. Otherwise, with the thought process, he is always wanting good for the whole world, the society, the countries, and the fellow human beings, and the animals and creatures. I'm now remembering. We have a dog here, a puppy you can say, only 2 years old. She just came into our ashram 2 years back. At night at 10 o'clock we were hearing some yelping of a small dog-like. So some of them went and rescued it from the bushes. White-looking small puppy, very lovable, very lovable. So we started giving food and all that. It was night at that time, so it slept with somebody. Next morning we gave food and everything. Puppy, so initially it was a little shrunk and trying to understand whether we are, sending it off or showing our love. We thought that it will be difficult to keep a dog in the ashram. Dogs need a lot of caring. We have got a lot of cats and kittens. They don't look after, they don't need looking after. You have to just give them food. But dogs need a lot of looking after. So whether anybody will take the doggy from the village if somebody is wanting. But we didn't find anybody. By that time, that cute little doggy became everybody's pet. And Swamiji named it initially Surya, that is sun, and thinking that it is a male. But within few days it was understood that it is a female. So Swamiji named it Surya Kumari. So she is called Surya. She is everybody's pet, but how they understand? She understands who is the main person here. So if she is brought to this hall, sometimes she wants to meet people. She is a very friendly sort of a dog, always wants to come and meet everybody and then sits quietly. So she will come and she will occupy the footrest of Swamiji, knows that he is the main person. She sleeps in Swamiji's room, tried to occupy Swamiji's footrest. So Swamiji's footrest has been given to her. So yesterday, Swamiji was telling, do you know how much I love you? It was so sweet to know this. And this little dog, what does she know? But the very fact, the saintly person like Swamiji is telling, do you know how much I love you? And in Tamil saying, chamattu, chamattu, and all that. So it is beautiful to hear. Why I am saying this is, I don't think that Swamiji has any attachment, but Swamiji has a lot of feeling for this. Even whether it is a cat or a dog or a worker or a help seeker, whoever comes, it is his Manasa Putra and Manasa Putri. To live in midst of such extra familial fondness and relationship, one has to be ready for any stake, be prepared for a sword as well as a garland. This is what Baba told Swamiji, that you will be in the big world now, in a big family. Everybody is your family. Everybody is your relationship, your svajana, vasudhaiva kutumbakam. And everybody should be your Manasa Putra and Manasa Putri. But also, be prepared for sword as well as a garland. Some will praise you, some will show respect to you, some will be saying comments on you, criticize you. So be prepared. That is what is the lesson for all of us also. In our lives, we always will not get appreciating words or loving words from everybody. We'll get comments, we'll get some neglect from others, we'll be ignored by others. We'll have to take it. Who cannot take it? Who can take it as a samata, samatva, sama dukkha sukha? Who is that? A devotee, a true knower. He will not be affected by anything, whether it is praise or whether it is criticism. And Baba particularly told Swamiji this. Okay, I will stop here today. Sampurnam Jagadevanandanavanam Sarvepi Kalpadrumaha Gangam Vari Samasta Vari Nibaha Punya Samasta Kriyaha Vacha Prakrita Samskrita Shruti Shiro Varanasi Medini Sarvavasthitirasya Vastu Vishaya दृष्टे परब्रह्मणि सर्वावस्थितिरस्य वस्तु विषया दृष्टे परब्रह्मणि। जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु।